All right, we'll call the Superintendent Search Subcommittee meeting to order. My name is Debbie Chamberlain. I'm a school committee member. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you very much for participating. This is a very important job and a big commitment, and we really, really appreciate you taking the time to help us with the search. I'd like to introduce Walter Nutter, who's also the chair of the Superintendent Search Committee.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd like to echo Deb's comments that this is a very important job we have, and to thank you all for participating. You know, in the course of my short 6 years on the school committee, I've met a lot of superintendents, and especially at the conference on the Cape. And I can say that you know, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Muir are some of the best superintendents I've ever had the pleasure to meet. And you know, we've been very lucky, and I hope we could rise to that level of superintendent again in this one. So that's all I have.
Thank you. And to my right is Liz LaFawn, who's MASC, who's going to be actually conducting most of this meeting and helping us through the search process. So turn it over.
So we're setting the bar very high right out of the gate. So I like that, Walter. So I'm Liz LaFond, and I am a field director with MASC. I'm going to help facilitate this process. It is every step of the way your process, and in no place is it my process. So if there's ever a question, if you ever have a comment or a concern, please feel free to reach out to me or to Jess. She'll communicate with me and we will get it squared away right away. Like, I don't really want to be in charge of anything. This is your responsibility. And I'm just here to help you get through it. Having said that, congratulations. You're now all public body members officially. And there are a few housekeeping details we'll have to take care of. We'll get to that along the way, so no jumping ahead. And hiring a superintendent is, in fact, the most important duty that a school committee comes across. As I said a few minutes ago, this has been an unprecedented season for us. We've had more searches in this one season than we've probably seen in 2 or 3 combined. And it's been interesting to me that each search I've participated in, we've seen some really unique and dynamic candidates come forward, sort of out of nowhere. And in the Western Mass region, I think there's 4 folks who just were sort of unheard of before they came out and sort of fooled everybody and got and I think they're really qualified and ready to go. So just because we've done a number of searches doesn't mean there aren't good candidates out there. There are. And for a district like this, you're going to pull some good people in. We have gathered contact information, very important, so we can communicate about meetings and should there be any cancellations or other things to communicate about. You all received either virtually or in paper one of these orientation guides, and it may seem like pretty simple stuff. And you know, well, it is if you do it every day. And if you don't, we're going to walk through some of it. Particularly the open meeting law and the conflict of interest law. Now, Jess is certainly familiar with the open meeting law. I don't expect any problems, but I'll be in contact with her every step of the way to make sure that we're posting right and all that. She could probably teach me a few things. I do love, so I'm a little bit geeky when it comes to the open meeting law because I worked for, sorry, I should have said this. I served on my own school committee in Hatfield for 10 years. And I worked directly with a school committee, small urban district, Holyoke, for about 32 years. Until the receivership came in and messed up everything. They decided we didn't need me anymore, but they did. And so I did 6 other jobs plus the job I had originally. Anyway, that didn't last too long because I'm just too old for that. Fortunately for me, Glenn said, boy, do we have the job for you, Liz. Anyway, I love the open meeting law because we just can keep ourselves out of so much trouble with that. And we will not get into any trouble. There will not be any open meeting law complaints. We will not be violating confidentiality or any of that stuff. I'll be repeating it until you can hear me in your dreams. In this, let me skip over that. One of the things you're going to see in the packet of stuff you have is this form, which you will fill out only if you're an employee of the district. And this is a disclosure statement that the conflict of interest folks want, the ethics folks want us to fill out if we're an employee in the district, because, and you'll see at the end that the superintendent will actually sign off saying you don't in fact have a financial conflict. You can be an employee of the district and you can serve on these committees. This is how it was designed. But should anyone along the way say Principal LaFawn served on this committee and the superintendent's her boss, I can say, yeah, but I filed the disclosure form, so I'm okay. Jess is going to probably keep a copy of these in her files and give them to your town clerk to put in their files. And you say,
so when you say your town clerk, do you mean whichever town clerk here in Barry, or do you mean the town clerk for each town that they live in?
Barry.
Okay.
And you may say, no one's ever going to ask that. Well, they asked it in Chicopee. And lo and behold, when they went to the city clerk, there was the disclosure statement. So we've done our due diligence and we were good on that. Only time I ever saw anyone ask if an individual, an employee of the district has signed a disclosure statement. Probably someone who has very little to do and reads these things late at night, wondering what part of the pot they can stir.
Can I ask one more question?
You can ask as many questions as you want.
So our school committee members get a stipend.
Yes.
Are they considered an employee of the district?
Well, no, they're elected officials.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we get a stipend,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Okay.
So at the end of the meeting, or when you fill these out, just pass them back around to Jess. Jess is here. She's going to be here at all the meetings. She's going to take minutes for this group, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm gonna try. Right?
Thank you. And she and I imagine, will serve as hosts when we get to the point where we are interviewing candidates, just to be sure that there's no candidate crossover, so that we can maintain candidate confidentiality. We know, is this where we're going to be interviewed? Okay. We're going to interview here. I won't drive past it next time and go to the high school and roam around the halls and talk to people. There's a lot of music lessons going on up there. And
Come eat
spaghetti dinner.
Spaghetti dinner,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I did meet some new people. There is a chair and vice chair. And the role of the chair and vice chair on this committee is to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, that everybody has the opportunity to, air their thoughts, concerns, pleasure with the process, whatever it may be. So if you have a question going forward at the table, obviously you address it through the chair. And if you have a question outside of the process, you can reach out directly to me or to Jess, and we'll make sure that your question is answered appropriately. If it's something that has to be done in writing, I will copy the chair and vice chair just so they know. If it's something that has to be answered in writing, okay?
Deb, does the statement have to be read there on recording?
All right.
Yes, thank you, Peg.
Sorry. This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background, could be recorded. The recording could include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peg.
So just like at the full committee level, the chair or vice chair has really no additional authority than any other member. You're all one member, one vote. But they help to keep the meetings on track, organized, flowing, keep us on topic. And they will act when the time comes as persons for the search committee. And since all of our work beyond this will be done in executive session, the only time that will come up is once this group has decided on finalists, you'll report out to the school committee on who those finalists are. We don't talk about the candidates in any way outside of this group. And the reason for that is, I'll go a little deeper. We don't say, Jess, do you know Liz LaFond? They know now we're on the search committee. Why are we asking if you know Liz LaFond, right? 1 and 1 make 2. Sometimes, and it's probably more common than you would think, people don't notify their superintendent, for example, because they're looking to move and, well, whatever the reason is, they haven't notified their superintendent. And if the superintendent finds out, that person's job could likely be in jeopardy. We don't want that to happen. In addition to that, the open meeting law says that candidates have a reasonable expectation of privacy in this process. You don't want to be the candidate who, let's say there were 12 applicants, and I suspect we'll get way more than 12, but I'm using 12. Let's say there's 12. 6 get moved forward for interviews at this phase. You don't want to be one of the 6 that is known as the person who couldn't even get an interview, right? There's a lot of reasons to keep their names private, and we'll work hard at that. Most times when names get out, and they sometimes do, it's unintentional. So I'll say it too many times and you'll get sick of hearing it, but that's just how I roll. Open meeting law and public records. So besides posting the meeting, we're going to have a lot of documents. You all will see the complete application packets of all the candidates. At the end of the day, the only pieces of those application packets that become public are the resumes of the candidates that get moved forward as finalists. Otherwise, public records say that all of this material that you'll be reviewing is confidential personnel file material. So at no point will we share, for instance, your chair and vice chair will share out the resumes likely when they announce, because press will want to know who are you going to interview, who are your finalists. Resumes and resumes only. Okay. Otherwise, any of our personnel packets could be out there. I don't think any of us would like that. Did I miss anything on public records?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because we're not, I don't know if you all are going to want to use a specific rating sheet or rubric. I have often used more of a simple, I think there's actually a copy of it in that drive that's shared. It's a template, and it just sort of sums up at the end on a 1 to 4 scale, sort of how candidates have responded. I've seen groups, in fact, I just came out of Northampton, and they have the most complicated rating rubric. And we had a 2-hour meeting to pick a finalist, mostly because they were arguing over the rubric and what it did and did not include. It was a great time to argue over the rubric. The more complicated it gets, and I know our educators are all familiar with dealing with rubrics, and you say, what's the big deal? We deal with these all the time. Not everybody does. Sometimes keeping it simple and just being reflective is the best way to go about it. There are some do's and don'ts of interviewing that we talk about on page 14 in this handy, which I noticed today as I was looking for it, is unnumbered, so I'll fix that going forward. It's important that when you come to the table, you've read through all of the applications. You've made some notes if you have questions that you want answered. And that we talk about that all together here at the table. It's certainly unfair to anybody else here if people have read and you come unprepared, and then later in the process you have questions that could have been answered early on. Also included in here on pages 9 and 10 are sort of the obvious questions you cannot ask of candidates: age, sex, religion, handicap, health, national origin, military service, residence, or if they have a criminal record. Obviously, you don't have a license in Massachusetts if you have a criminal record. And if you have somebody from out of state, that will quickly be found out. My executive director, does anybody know Glenn? You know Glenn.
Sure.
I think in a previous life, Glenn was a gumshoe, and he really loves me to say, Glenn, where can you find out about so-and-so from Utah? He is like on it. Whatever else he's doing, he's pushed aside and he is all over that. And we often have interesting conversations with people. First we start with, we would start with Utah School Boards Association, for example, and we go from there and talk with people about candidates we don't know. There are very few, if any, folks in Massachusetts who are going to apply for this position that we're not familiar with or that we can't readily find out about. And we will do that. I'll do that before the applications even come to you for review. So I've already started sort of with a general rating sheet that I use, that I built off of the description of what the school committee said they're looking for in a superintendent. And I simply, I don't know, I used it a few years ago and I simply use like a 1-point system for everything that's kind of asked for that candidates have. The reason candidates usually score low is their license is not present, nor have they indicated in any way in their application that they've applied or where they are in the process, right? It's a master's degree required, doctorate's degree preferred. So you'll get 1 point for your master's, and if you don't have a doctorate, you're not going to get a point, right? Did you include that personal statement? You'd be surprised how many people don't. You can lose points for yourself, in other words. And if you're that kind of person who's paid attention and given everything you're supposed to give, you'll likely score higher. And we'll talk more about that when you all come together to look at the applications, which I understand we're doing on the 17th of April.
The 10th,
10th. I'll be here, I swear.
it's a Monday.
Second, if I could just say, and I know this probably is just my problem and not necessarily, Mondays are select board meetings. And I believe there's select board meetings in Hubbardston as well. So for us, Mondays are a little tough unless it's like 5 to 7 instead of 7 to whenever. And I only say that for us. And if that's like, I probably can miss a meeting now and again, but if we put all of them on Monday, it'll be really hard for selectmen to participate.
I believe that was Hubbardston's
Yeah.
issue as well. It's Monday's so tough.
So we can work through that as we move down the agenda. If there's dates we need to change, we're going to go ahead and try to do that tonight.
I mean, I know other people may not be available earlier in the afternoon, so like it may, because if you did it early in the afternoon, selectmen could make it on a Monday or any other night.
Okay. We're going to try to find something that works for folks. What we're going to do tonight.
How many nights do you think?
Well, so we're going to need one night to look at the paper applications, I suspect.
Okay.
What I would plan to do is come in prepared with sort of the rating sheet. You all can talk about people who you're interested in. We'll have that conversation and we'll whittle it down to the number of people you want to interview. I suspect that you have a good group of educators around the table, and some of the folks will be known to them as well. We want to make sure that, just in respect of everyone's time and energy, that we're not wasting our time with candidates, right? We want to bring you those candidates that are viable, that have interesting backgrounds that you might want to hear more about. And at this stage, you can be a little more flexible in terms of, you know, what's interesting in this person's resume versus somebody with a ton of experience. Let's talk to that person. As the folks move forward to finalist phase, those are the people you all want to have confidence could really step in and be the next superintendent of schools. So if there's people you really want to talk to, let's vet them as semifinalists, right? But again, I know we all have sometimes way too much to do in our lives, and I want to be respectful of your time, which I'm sure you would appreciate. But speak up for the candidates you're dying to see. So now where we're going to talk about those timelines and reserve the dates. You will see, my understanding from the school committee is they wanted this committee to see all of the applications. And so that's what you're going to see. These applications belong to the school committee. And so they make that decision. Sometimes school committees make different decisions, like screen out whatever they want to screen out, and you'll do that. So again, these interviews are going to be an executive session. We don't talk about what happens in these interviews outside of the interviews or with anyone, you know, if we're tempted to talk about it with our spouse, I would just say, try to resist that temptation just so people's names don't get out. You have been tasked with identifying 3 to 5 finalists, which is very standard. Again, the school committee, likely from your interviews, you're not going to end up with more than 5 people that you feel confident to move forward. 3 to 4 is pretty normal. And the dates we had originally looked at are the 10th of April.
I
which
thought it
is a
was the
Monday.
week of.
Okay,
the original,
but
right?
we just wanted to look at the applications first, so we know who we're going to interview.
But it may, what I'm asking is, can we choose another day during that week?
So what we were gonna, sure, we can. That's where we're at, absolutely.
The 10th of April is the day after Easter, and I think for a lot of people, that is a holiday.
Really?
Just,
I did see
Not
on
for
my
me.
calendar saying
Not
it's
for me.
Monday. Easter Monday, you're in school. So yes, whatever we can find that works that week, I think is the best thing that we can spend our time in right now.
Tuesday or Thursday?
Let's see if I can.
Would a
get some
Tuesday or
Wi-Fi.
Thursday work? Getting a lot of nods on that. What do we like better,
yeah,
Tuesday?
because Thursday they moved, we don't have a school committee.
I think you've already booked this room for Thursday, haven't you, Colleen?
I'm looking right now.
I thought you, because we weren't having school committee on the 13th, you had something going on.
How about, Yeah.
Tuesdays?
Tuesday,
actually, it's the 13th, I can't.
Well, we booked it for a virtual meeting, so we don't need the room
Okay.
necessarily.
The 11th.
We are here until,
We have it till 5:30
5.
on the 11th.
So would that be a little bit easier for some of the admin because you're already,
We're already here till 5:30.
so Tuesday might work out well.
Tuesday, I'm definitely available.
Was it moved to Tuesday? the 11th?
Tuesday, yeah. This Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And at what time?
Okay. What time works? 6?
6 work for everyone?
If you had something.
I have office
6
hours
works.
and it's Tuesday.
6 work for everyone?
6
Okay.
o'clock for me.
What date is that?
Tuesday, the 11th.
Yep.
April 11th.
You got that, Colin?
Okay.
Yeah, is that good for you?
Colin, please don't hesitate to speak up, okay? Because you're really, you and your fellow students are the only reason we're all here around this table. Key stakeholder group. So I anticipate we'll have no problem identifying semifinalists on that night. I will get busy the next morning, scheduling people for interviews. What the brochure says is that we'll interview the week of April 24th. That does start on Monday. But depending on how many people you decide to interview, it is possible, and it makes for a long night. Could do 3 candidates in a night on one night if we had to. We could start a little earlier, 5:30. 2 candidates in a night is very routine at this level. You're gonna give them about an hour for an interview with a 15-minute break in between. 3 if we're gonna do it, we usually do it on the front end, so that the rest of the process seems like a breeze. 3 can feel a little bit long, although it's, again, on the front end, it's pretty interesting. We'll see what you decide in terms of interviews. We're gonna have a lengthy discussion about, or should I say detailed discussion about applicants in executive session. Okay,
So do we want to book those dates that we want to use now?
so there might be one Monday that we would have to use depending on the number of folks you want to interview.
Or could we do the Tuesday, Wednesday?
Well, I'd say let's reserve the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. And I'd say reserve the 28th. If you want to give up the Monday, we can go on a Friday. Or we can go on a Saturday, no?
I have tickets.
Good for you. Gosh, I'm so excited. Red Sox. I would never have known you were a fan.
She's got the shirt
I
on.
know. I can see. I can see. I can always, not that I love to give up my Saturdays, but if we have to, we can talk about Saturday mornings. So just think about that in the back, keep that in the back of your minds.
When is our April break?
Way back on mine.
I like my Saturdays, I can tell you, because, I start early in the morning, I go usually well into the evening, although I look forward to having one search. It is gonna be like a blessing for me.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
When we do the actual interview process, should everyone who's in this room right now plan to be there that night? Like, what if one person can't make it? Do we still go on, or do we have?
So that's an interesting question. And it's a question that would ultimately be decided by the school committee. But if you don't see candidates interviewed, how do you deliberate on who moves forward?
Would it be possible, for example, just because it may help, if there is a video of the interview, and that the interview could be, okay, I could say, Jess, may I come in and see interview, whatever, because I was at a select board meeting, but I really want to participate. And at least I can see the flavor of it. Can't ask any questions or anything, but to see the flavor of it.
Well, I like your approach in terms of not having that. If candidates agree to be videoed, right, that's a possibility, and most will, especially if they know it's not leaving anybody's hands.
Yeah, so it's only for the
Jess.
purposes of including everyone on the team.
So there will be times, things do come up when people are not available, and it doesn't mean they haven't been committed to the process or don't want to continue. So if there's something of a nature that comes up and that needs to be decided, then we'll go with it when it's raised. How does that sound to the school committee members, I guess, at the table? Because ultimately it's your decision. It is very difficult to deliberate if you haven't seen them all. And some candidates are very willing to be interviewed and some are not. Recorded.
Oh,
We'll have a better idea after our meeting on the 11th. How many we're gonna
Yes, we
move
will.
forward for interviews, so how many days we'll need. Maybe we can try to be mindful around, everybody's conflicts and be able to schedule around. So we'll try to. but-
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And again, sometimes things come up and that's a call that'll have to be made. It's not my call, but.
Maybe Monday could be our last choice.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna start at 6 o'clock. And I think that, in my humble opinion, the best time to make a decision is after your last interview. If at all possible, we'll schedule 1 interview on that last night, and if we have to have 2, we'll schedule 2. I think that you'll find typically what we do is go around the table and do a straw poll initially, and you'll find that the field of candidates you're talking about actually narrows. 9 out of 10 times. It's often not it's not an overly long process. So that's what I'm hoping for. And once we select those finalists, and I guess we do have a little bit of sort of slush time there, because the next meeting of the school committee is May 11th. And that's when the finalists will get announced. But again, when I say slush time, we're trying to be respectful of everybody's time and their commitment to this process. And if all possible, we'll stick with that original week, unless there's agreement by the group.
I think there's no interest in starting earlier in case we have 3 candidates tonight.
Some people can't
That's-
just because of it working out.
Yeah, I think that's up to the group.
I think it might be able to get 5:30, but
Oh, yeah. How about you folks? Tara, how early can you start?
I could be here at 5:30.
Sure.
Depends on the day.
Well, so right now we'll say 6 o'clock, and we'll see what comes up and what this committee decides. So, have you all seen the question sets? Question set? Pretty comprehensive set of questions, and its purpose is, I guess, twofold. You certainly can use it as a reference just to get your thoughts flowing about the kind of questions you'd like to see asked. You can certainly use questions from there, take the questions, tweak them a little bit. You can make up your own questions if you're moved to do that by reading through that question set. I think that within the hour, we usually have time for somewhere between 10 and 12 questions to be answered thoughtfully and not rushed. Sometimes that depends on the complexity of the questions. A lot of those questions you'll see are multi-part questions. I don't suspect we're going to be asking very simple, basic questions with this group. So when we get there and we know what the questions look like, usually between 10 and 12, remember that the candidates have an opportunity for an opening statement and a closing statement where they may also want to ask you some questions. Happens. We don't want candidates rushing through the answers. We want you to have a sense of who they are, what they know, and how they communicate, right? So the process, so the Attorney General says that these questions cannot be created in executive session. So something we have been doing that has worked pretty well is that if it's agreeable to this committee, folks would submit their top, let's say, 2 or 3 choices of questions to me. Sometimes folks submit 14 questions to me. However many you submit to me, I'll compile according to sort of category, leadership, management style, teaching and learning, and so forth, and share those then with the chair and vice chair, who would make a determination on the final questions to be asked based on their knowledge of what this district is looking for and based on this. So I'm always going to refer you back to the brochure, which is well thought out in terms of what this district is looking for.
I was gonna actually ask you if the group had a copy of the.
I did
posting,
not
if we
print it, but I can
if
send
we
it.
didn't send
We'll
it.
send
I can
it to
send it to the
everybody.
printer right now.
That'd be
Oh.
great, great.
Technology is amazing.
No, Jensen.
So your role here is to bring your stakeholder perspective to the table while considering the criteria, the selection criteria that the committee has identified, because your input is valuable into the process. Okay. And I want to talk about the conflict of interest just very briefly. Because it's important that we do this right. There's a section in here. On page 8, I want y'all just to take a look at that. Be sure that you understand, again, the confidentiality piece is a legal requirement. And at this stage of the game, the legal requirement really comes down to the person. I've never seen it happen, but should somebody's name get out and they lose their job and they determine where it came from, or it sounds all convoluted, but there could actually be personal liability. Okay. So that's why I say it so much. I don't want anyone to get themselves into some kind of a trap that they unintentionally got into. You need to always act in a manner that a reasonable person might conclude that a member might not be showing bias. One of the other reasons why I do that initial paper screen without names, sort of I'll share that with you with numbers. And then as you go through candidates, I'll let you know what number they fall on the list so that you can see. Some committees do an anti-bias training first. I've been through that a number of times. Again, why I like to do that paper screen without looking at names. Just so that we're all here for the right reasons and we want the best superintendent and we like to understand that we're trying to keep bias out of the process, right? It's about folks' credentials and ability to do the work. No one can secure any unwarranted privileges. That's why staff members are signing that declaration that, yes, I do work here and the next superintendent will be my boss, but I'm promising I can do this work without any undue influence. Again, there's a piece under ethics about disclosing confidential information. I really can't stress enough how important that is. And we know a number of you are going to be employed under this, so we don't have to say you can't accept inherently contradictory employment. Just be sure to take a look at that page. I actually think that's it for me. You all have received that open meeting law training guide. I see it there. So essentially what that is required there is that you take a glance. We're going to be, Jess and I will be making sure that the postings meet open meeting law requirements. You won't have to worry about any of that. She'll be doing the minutes. You won't have to worry about that. The only piece you'll have to worry about is the confidentiality. I have already looked because part of that open meeting law training guide requires you to look at any conflict of interest determinations for the past 5 years for your body, which would be the school committee. There are none. So you don't have to look at any of that. You really just have to, I'm going to suggest that you just scan the page. If there's something that interests you, read that particular paragraph or piece, sign off on the sheet that says you looked at the training materials. Again, there's no conflict determinations against this committee, so you don't have to look at that. It's a formality, but it has to be on file because you are now public body members. That's something that Jess will keep in a file. The other thing that seems to work out quite well is that we drop sort of those questions in that template that I think some of you have seen in the box. Jess has already created folders for people. It often is very helpful if she brings those folders to every meeting and collects them at the end of the meeting so that who knows what could happen, but the notes get in your car gets broken into, somebody's just really dying to have those notes. But the notes will stay here. And you never have to worry about that. And they're your notes and only your notes, and none of us, including Jess, is interested in seeing what you've written down. At the end of the process, Jess is required by public records to keep all of those notes. So you'll take notes on each candidate. At the end, she'll collect your folder. They'll all go in an envelope that she'll seal and put in a file cabinet somewhere that has a destroy date on it. She's required to keep all of the notes related to hiring for 1 year. Sometimes committees ask me to take that stuff for them because they don't have a Jess working for them. And I do the same thing. I just seal them. They go up into my basket upstairs in my office. It's funny because I even told my daughters, you see this basket? If anything happens to me, there's dates on them, or just give them to MASC and they'll know what to do with them. It's not something anybody's interested in seeing. It's just, we're trying to do the right thing by public records.
Thank you, John.
This is critical for you to keep in your folders and bring with you. If you ever have questions, this is the brochure that the school committee developed that outlines a selection criteria. The things we want our next superintendent to bring. And if we find anyone who brings all of this, we're very fortunate. But we certainly want to find somebody who brings most, if not all, and certainly the most important skills that this district needs. I'm glad there's such a good number of school committee members on this committee. Keep us on task with that. This is our guiding criteria, along with the qualifications, which I'll include as I do that paper screen. It's interesting to me to see how many candidates we've seen without 3 years of teaching experience. I think everybody around this table would agree that unless there's some real compelling reason, teaching experience is pretty critical to a superintendent. Again, unless there's some compelling reason that you all decide you want to look at a candidate who doesn't have that experience. We'll discuss all of that when we have the applicants. So just one more time, at no time is this my search, it's your search. It's the school committee search. And we're here to do the best job we can to bring finalists forward who would be the next greatest superintendent in Quabbin, if that's a possible thing.
It is, it is.
It is a possible thing. Well, I know that we've got we've got a high
necessary.
bar to get over here.
We
but
do have a high bar and we know that we'll find the right fit.
I think that we found some outstanding superintendents this year. I think we dug deep. So I guess I should let you know, and I let the committee know this, but there's sort of a wide net cast with our application. We put it on our website, the superintendent's website. If you're in Massachusetts or anywhere around, actually, if you're a serious candidate wanting to come to the state of Massachusetts, you're going to the Superintendent's Association website or ours. In addition to that, we electronically send it out to colleges and universities throughout the New England region. I posted on the National Superintendent Searchers website, and I sent this out to DESI's Influence 100 cohorts. I think there's 5 of them now. And this was a cohort that DESI started, I think 6 years ago now, to reach out to young, talented district leadership or principals to encourage them to sort of move up that chain in administration. I also have a few key people that I tend to say, hey, did you notice the Quabbin posting? You know, and they either are or not interested. If there's anybody you know that's interested, don't hesitate. I think we're Friday before the 10th, whatever that is, the 7th.
The 7th.
Is when applications close. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Just on the questions, when do you want us to have those questions in by? You know, when we're selecting those 2 or 3, is there a date that we need to have those questions?
There is.
Okay.
And the school committee members, the chair and vice chair are gonna help me with this, because we're gonna interview the week of the 24th. I think ideally, if I were to say that you would have them into me by the 17th, no, sooner, 14th? Did you say the 14th?
Sure.
So if you were to have them into me by the 14th, I would have them turned over and back to the chair and vice chair by the weekend. That would give them a few days to put their heads together and pick those questions.
How many questions do you think
You might have to go
would be
somewhere.
asked within an hour?
Yeah, I think that depending on how complicated some of the questions are, usually between 10 and 12, plus that opening statement, which you can always weave in one of those, and why Quabbin, what sort of make an opening statement and include why you're selecting Quabbin and what your skill set will bring to us and what your skill set in particular will bring here. So we can sometimes work in one of those questions.
I've seen a quick perusal of the questions. Nothing in there as a specific question zeroes in on, do you understand a regional school district?
Mhm.
And my concern just is that something that if they don't say it, someone will do a follow-up? Or should we create a question and say, what about adding? Because if you come to a school district and you've never, ever even
Experienced regional.
you are in for a learning curve that's a little different than
Yes,
if you
you are.
have. So I just want, because I did notice that there's not a question that in my very quick perusal. And I think if you could tweak it a little bit, so
Yes.
maybe there is a question that kind of focuses that a little bit.
Or you could tweak it a little
I
bit.
could be happy to do that, but I hesitate to do things like discharge.
Oh, no.
That's my problem. It's my problem, I admit.
Well, that's
Back
not
off.
taking charge. That's you having the experience and the thoughtfulness to do that. So,
I'll just-
Yes, Maureen.
I'll
Yes.
just do
That
a
is an
couple when I turn
important
it in.
question that we need to have asked.
I think so. And one way it would typically be brought in is through sort of one of those budget questions and sort of who do you see as stakeholders and critical allies in the process, and how do you plan to, how do you interact with other municipal officials, right? But yes, please.
I think there were questions like that kind of go around that, but they didn't
Yeah.
specifically talk about regional.
So there's the
so
whole
different.
idea, tweak it to make it yours, create an original question, or two or three.
I just don't want to have the candidate not have to address that, because working with 5 different boards of selectmen, 5 different, finance committees is very different than being, in West Wales.
It's
And going
very
by a
different.
town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 5
times.
town
And
meetings.
also being open to others coming in.
Yeah.
Like we tried several times.
Yeah, it's very different. And thank you for raising that. So be thoughtful when you all are thinking of your own questions and how that, you might tweak it to make that work specifically for Quabbin. I was fortunate enough to serve in Hatfield, which has about, 3,200 residents, and at any given time, including school choice, about 500 kids pre-K to 12. So I know. Starting to have some sort of consolidation or potential, like how can we share and get more for our money conversations. Again, it comes up every probably 8 or 10 years, and it should. But that Sophia Smith legacy is strong in Hatfield, right? She started Smith Academy.
Colloquialism is strong in New England, and it lives forever in our.
I've been meeting with Berkshire Educational Resource K-12 group, right, for years.
Yes, years.
And they're trying to, and it's starting to take hold, like there are ways districts can share without, in some cases, regionalizing. You can share courses. You can, right? You can do it virtually. I know that in Southern Berkshire, the numbers are getting so low that they're trying to regionalize 2 regional districts. So it's 2 4-town regions trying to come together for an 8-town region. And boy, nobody wants to lose their identity, right? That's always the biggest thing. And what are the apportionments? Who pays what? It's interesting work. Are there any other questions? No question. Great. I think we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna get to know each other. So oddly enough, I like this stuff. I know it's weird. There's 7 of us at the association. You might think there's a big staff, and we're all geeks about this work, and we love what we do. And so I get to meet lots of nice people who are invested in the same kinds of things that I am, and it's part of the fun of it for me. We'll get to know each other quite well. Jess and I are already getting to know each other quite well.
Just come for Easter dinner.
That was something I'd like to do though, is since we are all from different backgrounds and we are gonna be spending so much time together, let's get to know each other a little bit. So if we can just go around and introduce ourselves.
Thank you.
Peggy, you want to start?
I'm Peggy Thompson. I'm from New Braintree. I'm on the school committee.
Oh, Becky, you can tell us a lot more about.
Oh, I don't want that.
I was gonna say.
I mean, she's a bus driver, she's a coach, she's a person who does officiating and athletic events. I mean, come on, you're like anyway.
She's been the special ed chair for 15 years. I don't know.
Yeah,
something
and
like
she's
that.
been a person who has been on the school committee for how many more years you want to probably say?
I don't know. I can't remember.
But double digits, okay, and someone who's contributed tons. She and I have not always agreed.
That's true.
However, we have done so amicably and hopefully invested.
Agree to disagree.
Yes, we have.
Thank you for that. We can agree to disagree. I don't disagree with any of you on anything unless it comes to following the rules we must follow, and that will be the only time I would have to disagree.
All right, this is gonna take some time. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm Joanne Cormier. I'm from Hubbardston. I'm a newer member to the school committee, longtime educator, 27 years. Originally started out as special education, moved over to regular education at the middle high school level. And that's it, actually.
That's it.
Oh, no children of my own, but we do have, we have a local business in Hubbardston. So, we're a stakeholder in that way, as well as, supporting the schools, which is really important to us as well.
I'm Maureen Marshall. I used to be superintendent here for a couple of years. And I would just say I have one daughter, as some of you know. And I would say that there is almost nothing in my life that's more important than the school district, okay? Nothing. And people who know me would say, don't get in her way. I mean that. There's nothing more important to me. And I know in my new role as the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Barry, I put my name in there because I said, well, if nobody else will do it, I'll do it. And I was shocked when she says, you're it. I said, out of 15 other selectmen, and so I'm guessing that the criticism of all of you will be, can you believe they let her do that? Because they will view me as someone who only cares about the school. I don't only care about the school. I care deeply about the community and all of the communities that I've come to know and sometimes love over my many years working here. So I will tell you, I will do the absolute best I can to demonstrate my not only concern for the students in the district, but also the financial management issues that Quabbin, will visit upon the towns. It's not easy to be the select board person, and it's not easy to be the school committee person when you get to May. But I will tell you that I'm also the executive director for the Mass Association of Regional Schools. We are into a fight for our lives at the legislative level. And Glennon knows about that. Glenn and I have had conversations about that. We have some wonderful legislation that's being filed and being pushed by the chair of the Education Committee, and that is Senator Lewis. We have HD 500, which is the legislation for rural schools. You are a rural school, and the towns that compose us are rural schools. And so I know that my commitment to this district and to what we need to do for children in all of our towns is critical to me. And as I say, lead, follow, get out of my way. I mean that about this. And so for me, this person, whoever he or she may be, we have got to make a good decision, because putting this job on anybody's back is a huge, huge, huge ask for somebody. And I never really knew how big the ask was until Sheila sat across the table from me a couple months ago and said, how the hell did you ever do this job for 30 years? It is a very difficult job, and I commend not only her, but I commend people who are making applications for this and want to give it a try. It's a tough job, very tough job.
We expect a lot.
You do. And
We
we
do.
should, I mean, and we should expect a lot, but.
We want the best.
and
It's
so I-
tough times. You know, it's tough times for everybody. I mean, we had easy years. We just
When were
slid
tho-
that budget
when were
right
those?
through. You know, I mean, hey, let's get that.
Not
So we
many
had
of
a few of
those.
them. So
Those years are
it's
gone.
tough times.
They're difficult times, but always remember, nobody gets to do fifth grade twice because we screwed up. Okay, they get to do lousy fifth grade. That's unacceptable. I'm picked fifth grade just for heck.
Well, you've always said that.
Fifth grade?
Whatever grade, you just
kindergarten.
can't. No, she knows since kindergarten.
Yeah, well, like,
I'm surprised we've never met, given your work with Mars.
I'm
So,
surprised.
and I cover Berkshire County.
I spend time in Berkshire County. I'll be with the Lieutenant Governor at the Delaney House on Saturday, spending time talking about rural schools in your area.
Really?
Yeah, we have a couple of people on our board who are from, well, Southern Berkshire is one.
Mhm.
We also are trying to, take the Rural Schools Coalition that sort of fell apart.
Yes.
Okay, that's where we keep talking about Mass Association of Regional and Rural Schools. Okay, because really, most of the rural schools are in regions
It's true.
already.
I imagine Cheryl Stanton is probably.
I do know Cheryl very well.
Yeah. It's, listen,
And Southern Berkshire, putting that together is how many square miles?
well, Southern Berkshire, I know the entire Berkshire County is like 950 square miles separated by a mountain range.
So that's easy to put
Try
together.
transporting kids there. And they all believe that sort of there's North County, Central, and South County, and they all, and so maybe that's what works. Maybe it's a 3-region county,
And
but
I just say to you this, Leominster Public Schools, great little place, right? Leominster, they're part of the SOA crowd, right? They got $10 million last year, more than this year. And you guys, okay, all around this table, got, okay, 0.19, zero.
Yeah.
91 school districts, zero. And it's because you're held harmless. We are beating up held harmless too. That's, oh, I could go on, don't.
we.
I'm Kurt Bellimer. I have a kindergartner and a third grader at Oakham Center School. I'm also an educator since 2007. Yeah,
What do you teach or what do you do in education?
I'm a teacher. I teach in Shrewsbury.
Oh, good.
I'm a lab
You know
teacher.
Joe, huh?
Yeah. Joe is a good superintendent.
He is a very good
Yeah.
superintendent.
And he was, when I started there, he was the principal at the middle school. And so I've kind of do his thing. And, I started out in Teach for America
Oh, great.
after college, and he's also an alumni of the
Yeah,
program.
he is, yeah.
I've had a lot of thoughts about education, and I've done some committees in town, in Shrewsbury. So,
Well, great.
and I didn't grow up in the district, but I grew up nearby. So
Okay.
invested,
Nice.
and we love Oakham. So,
Well, you have 2 children. You really are invested.
yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
So Jason Gamartin, I'm assistant principal at the Quabbin Regional Middle High School. I was hired here 13 or 14 years ago by Maureen. Came here and had the good fortune of being brought in, and she challenged us, always challenges people from outside of the district to come in and make us better.
Absolutely.
And about 5 years in, she asked me what my plans are. And I said, I think we're doing some good work and I want to keep going until I feel like it's done or we're in a good spot. And she said, well, we'll keep you busy. And each time we come through, it's one more new thing that I want to help fix and move and progress until we can get settled. And I've found a second home. So I live in a regional school district halfway between the Berkshires and here. And so I live in Hamden.
Okay.
And so kind of got one foot over I started my career in Western Mass in the Pioneer Valley, and then made my way over here. And so been a long-time investment.
And you're in the small town of that regional
Yeah,
2-town.
we are the often
They got
overlooked.
arm wrestling a lot.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
I'm
often
happy to
overlooked.
have him.
So, thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Carolyn Ludwig. I teach second grade at OPM Center School. Grew up in Hubbardston. I live in Barry now, and I went through the school district. All three of my children went through the school district.
Great representation. Different towns and
I know.
wow.
It's a great place to be. It's a great place to work. And it was a great place for my kids. My kids got a great education.
And she's our Girls on the Run leader.
She is.
We're excited.
Yes, we have a nice team of 31 girls this year, so
Oh,
it's
congrats.
fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Protect those knees, that's all I can say.
We'll have fun.
All right. Hi, I'm Colin Brown. I'm a senior at Quabbin. I'm one of the class officers. I'm part of multiple clubs. In June, I'll be the third generation to go through the Quabbin School District. My grandfather being the first graduating class, then my parents and me. I think I'm good.
What town you from?
I'm from Hardwick.
Great.
Tell us about your college plans we were just talking about.
I'm going to St. Joseph's College in Maine for political science and public policy and a minor in history.
Excellent.
I'm going to be part of the cross-country indoor and outdoor track team up there. I also did sports here.
Nice.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it.
And I'm Colleen Mohan, the Director for Teaching, Learning and Support. This is my 5th year. I'm finishing my 5th year at Quabbin.
Wow.
I know.
Time flies when you're
Yeah, and so I've been everything along the way. So I was a teacher, a literacy coach, an elementary principal. And then I came to this position here in Quabbin, and I love it. And that right there, that's our priority. So that's what I'm all about. My questions will be about teaching and learning.
Thank you, Carmen.
Hi, I'm Tara McConaughey. I'm here as a parent of a 6th grader and a junior. Personally, and then I also have 2 older daughters. Professionally, I'm an educator, elementary for a long time, looking to move into high school. And I'm really curious. I finished my superintendent's coursework in Ohio before we moved here in August. So this is a super great learning experience, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So
Now I remember who you are.
yeah, I met you way back in August when it was crazy.
I remember when you registered and we chatted about that. I totally forgot that you were an educator.
Yeah.
And talked about this committee. So, but it's all coming back now.
We're from Ohio.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
And I live in Barry, out in the woods now, so it's awesome. I love it. I'm happy.
Different place, huh?
Yes, very different. Yeah.
I'm Tricia Worthington, the principal at OCAM Center School in New Braintree Grade School. I started here in 1986. So I've had Dr. Marshall and Dr. Muir, so I do have high expectations. I have 2 girls, and I started off as a special ed teacher, then a grade 4 teacher, then a chairperson, and then a principal. And I'm very loyal to this district. And I'm hoping we find another great superintendent.
We will. It's our job. We're going to do
That's our job.
it.
So I'm Kristen Campione. I'm the Director of Student Services here at Quabbin. I just am completing my 12th year, and I went to high school in a 4-town regional. Then I taught in a 3-town regional, and now here I am in a 5-town. So I feel like that's progress. I tried to work here for some time, and then finally landed in an interim position, and it worked out really well, and I'm still here. So I grew up in a town smaller than New Braintree. So every time I drive around the district here, it just feels like home. And I've always felt very, as Trish said, loyal. And I've worked for wonderful superintendents. I've never worked for someone that I didn't have a lot of respect for. And my office is actually like so every word that I speak on the telephone or whatever is like, it's so close, and we've had such a good relationship. I'm really invested in making sure that everyone on the central office team, as well as, the principals and the buildings and the students and everyone, that we do everything we can to make sure that we get the best person. And I'm sure that everyone here feels that way, but I feel it very passionately. And it's a little bit, I'm nervous about it. Like I've been working in education for 25 years. I've taught at the elementary, at the high school. I've been a chairperson, I'm assistant director, and I have never been as unsure or nervous about a big decision as I do about this one. So I just share that with just some honesty that I'm really invested in this process, and I hope and I know that we will make the best decision possible.
Thank you, Kristen.
Hi, I'm Emily Cartier. I'm a school committee member from Hardwick. I think I just completed my 3rd year on school committee. When my 2 kids were at Hardwick Elementary, I volunteered on the PTO and was also the president of the PTO. I am going on my 7th year in the Youth Commission for Hardwick, where I assist with Hardwick Youth Center. So I'm all about community. I own my own business. I have my own farm. So I'm very busy.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Marsh, Barry School Committee. I've been on the school committee for 6 years. I have 3 children, 2 of which have graduated, 1 in 2020, 1 in 2022, both doing very well in college. I have a junior right now who's also excelling here. And that's the reason why I'm on school committee, because this school is fantastic. And Kristen, you are correct. We all should be nervous about filling this one. We've been lucky with Dr. Marshall, Dr. Björk for the past, how long?
Long time. Just I became the superintendent here in 1987.
So this is not
So-
normal.
I was only 12.
I'm an adopted Panther.
Okay.
I grew up in suburbia in a school that I would consider a privileged school at this point. So I married a Quabbin graduate. So we had a choice between living suburbia or living here. We can't afford suburbia.
Good choice.
And I just love Quabbin. We all love Quabbin. So we should be nervous, but we will fill this void.
Well, we're going to keep looking until we find the right person, right?
That's right.
So I'm Jess Bennett. I'm the executive assistant to the superintendent. I was blessed to come to work for Dr. Marshall. I've been here almost 19 years, I think, and started in the central office about 12 years ago. And have 4 boys who came through the system and have all done great. And yeah, I'm very invested in this because we spend a lot of time with the superintendent. So
Yes.
it's a great place. And I think it's a big job to find someone who can fill the shoes of we had Sheila to fill Dr. Marshall's shoes, and now to find someone to fill Sheila's shoes is going to be a big job.
It's going to be a big job. So just, I guess, a little bit of a personal note. I have 2 adult daughters, 30. You lose track in their 30s. One is going to be 33 and one will be turning 35. I'm the proud grandmother of a 20-month-old and a 9-week-old.
Oh.
And when I say proud, I guess you might have an idea, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have no idea. It feels like I was just born for this job. I grew up playing teacher and believed, I think, right through the time I got out of high school that I would be a teacher. And then I realized I didn't have what it took. So I didn't become a teacher. But interestingly, my youngest daughter graduated college and was going to take on the world. And she went into the world of financial advising, where she made the mistake of, I guess it's a big thing when you take your different level tests, everybody wants to know what you scored. And she was outscoring the men in the office. And so they had to knock her down some pegs. And one Thursday she said, I can't do this anymore. And by Tuesday of the next week, she was teaching. She loves it, right? So after her first year of teaching, she decided, if I'm gonna do this teaching thing, I need another master's degree and I'm gonna get an MSW. You know, right? So the kids bring stuff to the classroom now that, gosh, I never thought of. So I'm very proud that I have my youngest daughter's a teacher.
Where does she teach?
She's at Chicopee High School.
Oh, not an easy job.
She loves it. She loves it. Actually, she went into, because it was a job that was open,
I hear you.
health
Oh, gee.
and physical education, but mostly health. Which is probably why she decided on the MSW, right? Because boy, those high school kids tell you things she never knew existed, right? And but she's thriving there and feels that it's valuable work.
Excellent.
Mm.
Does she live close by?
Oh,
She lives social work.
Oh,
So she lives close by me, but not close by you.
Okay.
She's about an
willing to
hour.
travel.
Oh, we have a lot of people who travel an hour to get here.
Yes, absolutely. That's
You
nothing.
do.
When you live around here, an
Minutes.
hour is.
Well, commute, it's great.
She kids get are on the bus for an hour, so
Yeah,
what's?
exactly.
That's right.
So she grew up in Hatfield, right? And stayed with the same, I guess her class was one of the biggest to ever go through, 44 kids. And she decided in high school, like, this is not enough for me. And of course, I'm on the school committee, well, would be my kid that wants to go school choice somewhere else, right? And she looked around at many, many school districts, and oddly enough, she landed in Holyoke.
really?
Because when she went into the district, she saw, again, kids that she had never seen in Hatfield.
That's for sure.
Kids with kids.
Yeah.
And she thought, this happens out in the world. I should be part of this, which is why she loves teaching in an urban district.
Well, good for her. Wow.
So,
And congratulations on your grandkids.
yeah, thank you. I'm pretty excited. I'm actually going, sorry, way too much personal information, but I'm stopping there and sleeping over. So when everybody wakes up in the morning, like, you know, when the baby comes out and
That's the
sees
best
grandma,
one.
he's so excited. I mean, the baby, the 20-month-old. That's my guy. So we're gonna have a good time with this. I can't tell you how excited.
Devin Walter.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm gonna
We're
be-
gonna have a great time, Devin Walter. We don't.
You're gonna skip.
I need to know.
All right, so Walter Nutter, I'm on the school committee. I've been on it for, I think, a little over 6 years. When I retired, I decided I wanted to do something in the community, so I had no idea what I was getting into. A little more than I thought, but I'm happy to do it. I'm really proud of Quabbin, everything that Quabbin does here. I was a railroad engineer for 42 years. I actually ran trains through Hatfield quite a few times. But I was a union rep in our Boston local for 30 years. And I was also a lobbyist for the union for several years. And now I'm retired and I have 3 kids, 7 grandchildren. My youngest is just turned a year. Youngest grandchild just turned a year. So I also, I'm an officer in the Worcester County Senior Athletic Association, which is really just a bunch of old folks that are playing softball. And lastly, I'm a trail maintainer on the Mid-State Trail. I'm in charge of, I'm a supervisor actually, I'm in charge of maintaining from the Berry Falls Dam to the Rhode Island line. So I have about 17 maintainers, so I have to rank them.
Not busy at all.
So anyway, that's what I'm doing.
Isn't one of your daughters a
And
teacher?
yeah, I just want to say, hearing from everybody and your backgrounds, it sounds like we have a lot of superstars on this committee, every one of you. And again, I thank you. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but we are gonna come out with a good superintendent.
And finally, I'm Debbie Chamberlain. I've been on the committee 9 years now from Hubbardston. I've had 3 kids that have graduated through the district, and while they were young, I worked for the town in town offices, so I got to understand how the budget and it all works together. And then after they got a little older, I worked at Wachusett School District in the business office for a while and learned how well and appreciative we are to have Cheryl managing our finances. And now I'm at Mass Wildlife, so work with Walter a little on the trail stuff, but now that my kids have graduated, I just see how important this district is to these kids, and I'll always fight for the kids. I'm also an admissions advisor for a camp for a girls' STEM program, so anything to do with kids, I'll always fight for the kids. I was court-appointed guardian for a while for kids in DCF custody, so anything to fight for the kids is kind of where I stand. And I was fortunate to be on the committee when Maureen was superintendent and now Sheila, and I know it's scary. I know it is, but we are going to find the right fit. And if we don't do it now, we'll do it again. We're going to get this right. And this is an important job, and it's very important. Our school committee is very committed to this district, and we're going to find the right person. So I appreciate everybody's time. I know this is a huge commitment, and we keep, talking about the confidentiality, and we're going to have, some laughs in the room, and we have important work to do, but I have no doubt that we're going to find the right fit for this district. So I appreciate your time. Do I have anything else?
No, I think that's great. I also love the passion in the room, and so it is a big time commitment, but it ends, right? It's not forever, so thank you.
All right.
So you'll hear from me again when you see.
So moving forward, our meetings will be an executive session, is that correct? Or-
So what we have to do with the questions, just one small detail there. Before we do an interview, we'll open the meeting in open session and we'll accept the questions in open session for the record, which makes them a public record. And thus far, we've been okay with that until
We're not.
we're not.
So I do have a question about the question. I was looking through them and I picked out, I was already listing the ones that I was kind of interested in. So I was like, say M8 or 8.5. Is that what you need, or do you need?
You can give me any way you want to. I will simply pluck them out of that document and plug them in. You can use the number as it's listed, copy and paste, or write the question out. If you create your own.
And actually, one other housekeeping thing I should mention, since, we're not all up to par maybe with the open meeting laws. When you do receive an email from like Jess, or just reply just back to Jess. We cannot do a reply all. That would violate an open meeting law violation. So I know it's kind of new for everybody. There shouldn't be too much correspondence anyway back and forth, but just so you're aware of those types of things. Again, all the candidates and applicants that we're going to talk about are going to be confidential until the name is released to the full school committee. So when our work is pretty much winding down is when any names could be released. So we really want to make sure we're not going to be breaching any confidentiality.
Right, and it's only the names that move forward that get released. And when we have this email list, when we start communicating that way, you'll see on the bottom of all my emails, and probably Jess's as well, do not reply all to this email. So very good point.
So what is the next steps? We receive the applicants?
You're going to receive the application packets. It closes on the 7th. We're going to meet on the 11th. So on that Friday night or very early that Saturday morning, you'll get all of the applications from me. Do you all use the Google Drive? Is that an easy way to share? Okay, because that's.
I don't know, everybody else also besides the school committee members are on that drive, correct?
Oh, no.
Or no?
You mean here in this room?
Yes.
It's not the school committee drive that we use. What it is it's Liz's folder.
Got it.
And I shared that with you.
We can open it. You can open
Okay,
it.
yeah.
So you're going to share the applications electronically?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought they were just going to be in this room.
So, some people still do that before
I mean,
we had the ability to share electronically. So now when I share, I'll probably share first with Jess because I'm going to keep it restricted so you can't share beyond that, right?
Okay.
So we're going to make sure that
That's my
it's
concern.
right.
Yeah.
That's my concern too, but it's really the easiest way, other than having you all come into one room and look through the paper applications. I think as long as we can be sure that we're going to hold one another accountable about that, we'll be fine. And I'll work on those sharing settings so you can't download or.
And
There's
will they do
magic
the
in that
rubric
drive.
as they look through those questions over the weekend, or will the rubric be done on Tuesday evening when we meet as a committee?
So do you, so what I'll do, if you're interested in having it, is just share the rubric I'm gonna use when I go through the paper applications, and you can look at it yourself just to score who actually meets the qualifications and to what degree. Keep yourself some notes. There'll be things in those, in the personal statements or in the letters of reference that interest you. Jot it down, make a note for yourself. And remember, you were out of the room. So thank you for the folders. You'll get, each time you come in, Jess will have a folder for you. It'll have the applications for the interviews that evening with a set of questions for each interview. You'll make notes on those. They'll go back into the folder, and the best practice is to collect those all at the end of the night. Jess brings them in for the next set of interviews. You'll have all your same notes. Everything will be there untouched, just the way you left it. And that's just about confidentiality and nobody having the opportunity through whatever fluke may happen to read your notes about a candidate, right? At the end of the process, you have all of your notes as we deliberate. When we're done and you move candidates forward, we collect those. You take them, they go into a folder and into a file and sit there for 1 year until the date that you mark they can be destroyed, and then they get shredded, and that's the end of it.
So if you could leave your folders behind tonight.
With all the forms completed.
So,
With all the
and that
forms
would be
completed.
great, yeah, but if you have any notes you want to take with you on your agenda or whatever, please feel free to take that. None of that's confidential.
What do
And-
we put as the official name of the public body in that form?
On the
Sorry,
open
I'm
meeting
sorry,
law.
I thought I,
Superintendent
Yeah.
the search/screening
yeah,
subcommittee.
preliminary superintendent search committee or.
Search and screening committee.
Okay.
As long as you put superintendent in front of it, superintendent search and screening.
Yeah.
I did.
But down here, though, when I went down this one, so we're not taking anything that's given out tonight with us?
No, you can take anything that's given out, except leave the forms if you've signed any.
Okay.
And you'll get that same folder back, just the way you left it. Jess is far too busy to care about what's in there.
We need to leave our notes here.
Today's the.
No,
you can
it's
take
it's
them.
open
Right,
session.
crossing out
No.
the school and putting super- Just leave the forms that you had to sign.
In the file.
Sure, that'd be great.
I'm sorry, Jess, I wasn't listening. Do you want these papers in our folder?
Sure.
That's easier.
Just leave them in your
Okay.
folder.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay.
You can put both. Yeah. I just.
Yeah, if you're not voting.
I was questioned that, though, as I was filling it out. I'm like, it's just the. This is what I put, but I'm like,
Well, at first I read it as.
And that's just
why-
another confidentiality statement, because most committees like it. It's really up to, just another piece of paper that says, I promise. Sometimes whatever it takes. You'd be surprised how often people aren't faithful to that. And it gets this.
All right. Motion to adjourn, I guess that's all we're looking for, right?
So moved.
So we have another call. Okay, just moving you along. All right, perfect.
Jess, we can leave paper.